You're watching Saturday Anime on the Sci-Fi Channel.
As the East Blue saga goes on, you get the feeling more and more that something's up with Nami. There's something hidden that she's making sure stays hidden. And she's been under the thumb of pretty much a gangster. A gangster and his crew came in, took over her town, and destroyed her family. Her older sister, Nojiko, still survives, but he murdered their mother right in front of her. And after that, saw Nami's talents for making maps and decided, you're gonna work for me now. And for the next 8 years, all she did was just either make maps for him or travel around and steal money from other pirates. And it's one of the saddest stories in the whole series as far as I'm concerned. Nami's is everything I think comes together.
Nami's story is really the heart of this first season, where we learn Nami and her sister Nojiko were raised by Bellemere, who was a Marine, and she found Nojiko carrying Nami, and then she raised them as her daughters. And then we see Arlong come to their village, and then he kills Bellemere. I feel like that works so much better in the manga, especially because in the manga it almost feels like it's more minimalistic.
It's one of the moments that just gets me choked up every time. It's so sad. You just see this little girl that's forced to grow up in this terrible, terrible environment, forced to go and wear the tattoo of the crew that just murdered her mother in front of her. It's one of the other strengths that Ichiro Oda has, and it's in making his villains. The villains that he comes up with in One Piece are some of the most despicable people you have ever seen. Arlong, you see how he treats the rest of the town. The town is terrified of him. Anytime he has a tantrum, Usopp sees firsthand what happens. Arlong turned part of their town upside down, literally.
Arlong to me is just the perfect embodiment of the overbearing parent. He is this evil, almost like stepfather figure that is preventing Nami from moving on. And the thing too that bugs me about Arlong is he's a fishman. He's so insecure, he cannot stop talking about how fishmen are superior. I think fishmen are cool, but he cannot stop talking about it. He is constantly shoving it in your face that it becomes annoying.
Yeah, it's completely that, and that's perfectly, again, Oda is such a master at making you hate these people. When it came to the fight with Don Krieg on the Baratier, every action Don Krieg takes is just this cowardly little piece of shit kind of actions where he'll attack his own crew member for just trying to tell him, look, we don't need to fight this. We can go and just talk to them, and Krieg will shoot them in the head and say, no, talk like that is weak. I'm not weak. I'm the strongest man in the East Blue. Arlong won't shut up about how superior the fishman is over the human. Don Krieg thinks he's the greatest person in the East Blue, and I think Krieg kind of sets up that whole idea kind of subconsciously that Arlong's full of shit.
Don Krieg is almost like a Fist of the North Star pirate version of Batman. He has all of these gadgets. He's got a grappling net. He's got like gas bombs. He's got a big spike shield. Like, this dude has a gadget for anything that could happen.
That's another one of those moments too in Luffy's fight with Don Krieg when he starts shooting those darts out too. Every time I watch that and Luffy starts pulling those darts that he shot Luffy with, Luffy's just pulling them out one after the other, and it just seems like the most painful thing. They do such a good job of conveying that in the anime and just conveying the weight just through the sound design of them. It sounds like these things hurt.
I do feel like sometimes the action in the manga could be a little bit confusing, and I feel like it's a lot clearer sometimes in the anime. And even some of the comedic elements I feel like work better in the anime. Like, I like that scene when Luffy's talking to Zeph, and then Zeph's chef's hat is out of frame, and then suddenly he just leans his head over and just bonks Luffy from across the room.
The comedy in One Piece is one of my favorite things about it. I don't see many gags like that. One of my favorites is just the fact that Sanji is such a simp for Nami. And I just want to go and take this moment to go and say, there are people that have compared Sanji to Mineta from My Hero Academia, and I take umbrage with that. Mineta serves no purpose in My Hero Academia than just being this annoying little perv gremlin. Sanji at least serves a purpose and has character depth to him. Comparing him to Mineta is unfair.
Mineta's just, he's kind of a punchline. You said Zoro's like the Wolverine of One Piece. I think Sanji's like the Kim Kapuan of One Piece. He has all these kick moves that he's able to use that he learned from Zeph, who also has the same kicking techniques.
I love that comparison. Yeah, I like the idea of comparing him to Kim Kap-Hwan.
Well, he's even almost got the same hairstyle too. Like now that I think about it.
The only thing Sanji lacks is just that nice glinty smile that Kim Kap-Hwan shows off from time to time.
The fact that he's such a simp for Nami, the fact that he tries to play it so cool and then he exposes what a simp he is a guy who is not effortlessly cool, he is affecting cool. He's trying to be cool.
Yes, and I think that speaks to a lot of the crew in general. They all have their own little quirks that end up creating their own punchline just through the use of their character. Luffy is a complete idiot at times. At the same time, you like Luffy. You can identify with him.
Like I said before, Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, they are the superheroes of this first season. And the characters with the real arc to me are Usopp and Nami. We see a lot of growth with Usopp. We see Usopp going from being a coward to beating a fishman with just sheer will. He just wouldn't give up. He kept beating the shit out of that guy till he wouldn't get up.
Sheer will and a hammer.
Yeah, definitely. He's almost like Old Boy. Like he's got a hammer as a lethal weapon.
A rubber band and a hammer. That's all you need to go and beat a fish, man.
And Nami, she's this thief who steals from pirates, to then she's a navigator. Then we find out that she's actually a pirate working for Arlong. But then we find out, well, no, she's actually only working for Arlong to get enough money to free her village. And then we see her tragic past, losing her mother. She is the character who I think has the most growth. And even just in this first season, like you compared her to Faye Valentine. Nami's almost a better character than Faye Valentine is, at least in terms of the depth she has.
I'd agree with that, absolutely. Yeah, no, Nami's got a lot to her that I think also really encapsulates through her kind of what One Piece is all about. The fact that she's able to go and laugh while hanging around with this group of lunatics. You have these characters that have all endured terrible, terrible lives in one way or another. They've suffered loss, they've suffered loneliness, and it's all thanks to Luffy. They're able to go and laugh again. And that's a really important thing to me, and I apply that as much as I can to life, too. It's important to be able to remember to laugh.
There's that one part in Nami's story arc where, during the flashback with Bellemere, she says something like, you just have to get through the bad times in order to be happy again. That's the whole reason why Nami makes that deal with Arlong, because everyone thinks that Nami has betrayed the village, but Nami is just sticking this out because she's like, even though this seems fucked up that I'm helping this dude, I'm only doing this because ultimately I will be able to get to the point where I could free everybody. I just got to wade through these bad times to get to the good times.
This was the moment that One Piece got its hooks in me and I was lost to it. I was a lifetime fan after this point. Nami thinks she's got that happiness in reach. She's got enough money, but oh wait, no. Arlong's actually talking with some corrupt Marines who just took all of the money that she had been saving for the past many years. And not only that, the entire town knew why she worked for him, that she was forced into this. And the town has had enough. They're walking to Arlong Park to take on the fishmen, knowing full well they're gonna get killed. At this point, Nami has had everything taken away. And the moment she pulls out that dagger, screaming Arlong's name and just stabbing herself in the tattoo, and until finally she can't bring her arm down anymore, Luffy's just holding it. And she just keeps telling him, you have to go. I don't want you here. I don't want to be part of your crew. Go away. And Luffy's not budging an inch because he knows. He wants to hear her say it. And when she turns, and I love that face that was drawn. It's so perfect in capturing that moment of desperation, that feeling like you're at the bottom. Nami turns and says, help me. And Luffy looks to the rest of the crew. Let's go. They all get up and walk to Arlong Park. That whole sequence was what I was hooked to One Piece at that point. It still is one of my favorite scenes in any anime that I've seen. And the thing is that walk is not in the manga. That was all something from the anime. And finally, it just comes to the climax. Pretty much everything that the East Blue Saga has been building up to is here. Luffy and his crew taking on Arlong and his crew. Fishmen versus humans. Let's go. And it leads to some of the more violent and intense moments in the story arc. Throughout most of the story arcs, the smaller arcs that make up the East Blue Saga, Luffy's fights have this very playful element, like he's not taking them seriously. And when he's fighting Arlong, you start to see that change. He's still trying to be goofy and still trying to make them into jokes. But when he starts getting shark bites in him, that's when things start to get nastier and nastier.
I believe it's in Luffy's fight with Arlong, where Arlong is telling him how superior he is, and he says to Luffy, you're even willing to admit that you're weak. And then Luffy says something like, I admit that I need help. And that's what he's there to do. He is there to help his friends. And when Nami is at the bottom of the barrel and she has no hope, he is there to help her, and with the other three, to provide hope for her. They're going to come together and they're going to help her. And what's also really cool about the Arlong Park story arc is that this is the first story arc where we have the whole crew, where we have all of them and they're acting in the roles that we're going to see them act in throughout the course of the series.
It's the moment in the manga or the anime where, yeah, it's starting to feel like more of a complete thing. I always say that from the Arlong Park story arc, at that point, the anime is running on all cylinders. It is a well-oiled machine and it's now ready. And by the end of that arc, you see that it's encapsulated just in Luffy standing in the rubble of Arlong Park and telling Nami, you'll always be my friend. That's another one of those moments that gets me. I'm an enormous sap, and that is one of those moments that always gets me.